Building Fortunes Radio with your host, motivational speaker Greg Dwyer. Be sure to check out Greg at www.gregdwyer.com. That's www.gregdwyer.com. Now on to our show. Take it away, Greg.
Okay, today is bonus day. So for the last few weeks, we've been talking about diamond mine. Every single week, we've been taking a letter, like in the word diamond, taking it apart and talking about some lessons. Last week we finished mine with the D. What is there left? Well, here's a bonus that I want to share with you that I believe will bring everything together. It really is the key to all of this. So what I would suggest is go back, look at the videos when you can, because you just don't hear something once and master it. It takes time to hear it over and over again until it gets down into your unconscious mind, and it's there that most changes occur. So what's the big issue? The big issue is that most people get distracted. Most people are chasing a shiny red ball, especially with so much information today, with the internet, just media. There's just so much that is trying to grab our attention. We first have to ask the question to ourselves, what indeed is really, truly important? Maybe you go away for a retreat, or you sit quietly at home on the weekends and you really get clear about this. This is what's really important in my life. And you write it down, you map it out, you get very clear. And there's only so many categories, right? The health, the finances, the relationship, the career. You know how the drill is, right? We've talked about this before. I think the reason why most people get focused and they don't stay focused is because there's two factors involved. One is the conscious mind, and second is the unconscious. And I've talked about this before. The conscious mind is easily distracted. As a magician, in the 70s, when I was performing magic professionally, I knew how easy it was to distract people. I made a living part-time distracting people. It's easy. It's easy to do. It's not that difficult. If you don't have an anchor, if you're not really clear, like a diamond, of what's important to you, you will get distracted because the conscious mind is easily distracted. All you have to do is watch Penn and Teller. All you have to do is watch David Copperfield. All you have to do is watch a really good magician or somebody playing three-card Monte on the street corner. It's easy to distract people. In our conscious mind, we can only take in so much information. We are limited. That's the first challenge. The second challenge is the unconscious mind is easily already, I should say, programmed. From childhood, the first 5 years, the first 8 years, how we grew up, our beliefs, our values, things that we may not be aware of, most of it is running the show. So if you take these two components together, and if you're watching me, you can see I have two triangles, one above and one below, representing the conscious and the unconscious. What happens is that the conscious mind is looking for new information all the time. It's being distracted. And the other part of the diamond is already programmed. So you got this tug of war going on, right? So conscious mind is distracted, look over here, look over there. Then you got the unconscious beliefs that are running the show, and you wonder why you buy a book and you don't read it, or you go to a seminar and you don't apply it on Monday, or something happens, a workshop, whatever it might be at work, or you listen to my lecture, and then you find yourself falling back into old patterns. 70% of what is remembered is, how should I say this? Let me back up. 2 weeks after somebody presents information, 70% of it is gone. So that's what I meant to say. So somebody comes in, they speak to your group, or you hear something really excited, that you're really excited about. Within 2 weeks, 70% of it is out the window unless it's reinforced over and over again. So that's why we did these videos, so that you can watch them over and over and over again. So today is the bonus. And what I want to share with you is what I would share with somebody who I only had 10, 15 minutes with. Like, of all the research that I have done in the last 20 years, if someone would come to me and say, hey, I only got a half an hour. I want you to be on my podcast. I want you to share some information that you have personally learned and applied that you think is the secret to all of this. And that's the bonus. That's what I'm sharing with you today. So we know what the problem is. The problem is we're easily distracted. The conscious mind has its challenges, and in addition to that, the unconscious mind has its challenges as well. So what's the answer? Well, the answer is not this. This is not going to help us at all. It's going to frustrate us. You know, you learn information and then you fall right back to where you were before. So what is the answer? How do we break the spell? How do we become more productive in what we're doing? Well, this is what I'd share with you. If you think of the top part of the triangle above as the conscious mind, there are three elements that are really, truly important. Now, I have to give credit where credit is due. I didn't make this up. I learned this, over 20 years ago from a friend of mine, Jerry Clark. He calls it the success triangle. And when I was in direct sales, Jerry introduced this concept to me. I studied it, listened to him in person, spent some quality time with him as my mentor. And this is what he shares. All successful people do these three things. The first thing is, I call it the base. He might call it part of the side. But he talks about technical knowledge. Like if you're an artist, you better know what you're doing. If you're a magician, you better know what you're doing. If you're a skydiver, you better know what you're doing. If you're a cook, you better know what you're doing, right? If you're going to do brain surgery tomorrow and you're a surgeon, you better know what you're doing. If you're a tax guy, an accountant, or a lawyer, or a policeman, or you work at the hospital, you better know what you're doing. So this is technical knowledge. Now, this is where most people gravitate to. They're like, I have to learn, I have to take a class, I got to get a seminar, I got to get more information, which is true. But information alone or knowledge alone is not enough. You have to practice it, you know. I went to graduate school, I learned a lot of things. But it wasn't until I got out of graduate school that I really began to learn. Why? Because I started applying it in the real world. Most people gravitate towards this aspect of technical knowledge. And of course, they're battling with all of these demons like, well, I'm not good enough, or I don't know enough, you know, or what are people going to think of me? And so people tend to get stuck here. You know, it's only when I take this course, it's only when I get certified, it's only when I jump through all of these hoops that someone takes, the sword and puts it on my shoulder and knights me or whatever, right? Technical knowledge is really, truly important. You have to know what you're doing. Like, for instance, I would never want to operate on somebody. I wouldn't want to even operate on my car, right? Like, I have friends that I have here in the neighborhood. They're like, oh, you can easily change this. You can easily do this. And let me show you how. And I said, look, stop. I don't want to get my hands dirty, number one, right? And number two, I want someone to work on this car who works on cars for his life or her life, and they do it every single day. I am not going to get inside this car and do something, once in a while. I want someone, it's the same thing like if you have legal problems. I don't know if you want to represent yourself. You may want to have expert advice. And what exactly is that? Well, that's somebody that is living in this soup all the time and is constantly thinking about what they're doing. That's what makes them an expert. Why? Because they focused on it. They focused 5 years, 10 years. They have 30 years of experience. When I tell people my fees, it's like, this is what I charge to go out and speak. They're like, that's a lot of money. I'm like, yeah, okay, listen, I'm an expert. I've been studying this for 20 years. This is what I bring to the table. It's not the hour. It's my expertise and my understanding, right? So technical knowledge is important. But if you stop there, you're missing two parts of the equation. The two parts of the equation that Jerry talks about after technical knowledge is, number one, internal dialogue. Internal dialogue. Talk about that in a minute. And the next thing he talks about is external dialogue. So the two things that bring the triangle together is technical knowledge, internal dialogue, and external dialogue. So when I heard this many, many years ago, I was like, wow, this is really, truly important. So external communication is how you communicate with your clients, with your coworkers, with potential customers, right? Your wife, your husband, your family, right? And the other one is how you communicate to yourself, right? So all of influence and all of leadership begins with you, with how you communicate inwardly, as a man thinketh, right? It's even in the Bible, about the heart and how a person perceives themselves and self-identity. It's what you say to yourself that's really, truly important. So when Jerry shared this with me about 20 years ago, a light bulb went off. And I'll tell you why. I was really struggling with the concept. Why are some people really, truly successful and other people are not? Like, how can you have a product that everybody has? They have the same marketing. They have the same fairness of reaching people, right? They can use the internet, Facebook, and all this kind of stuff. How come this guy over here is making $1 million a week or $1 million a year and this guy's, can't pay his bills? What's the difference? I remember asking that question like 100 times. Like, okay, we all have the same product. We're all selling the same vitamins. We're all selling the same, tinctures and magical formulas that can help people with their health and lose weight and all that stuff. We all have the same website. Why is she killing it? And the rest of us are struggling, or that guy over there, he's doing really well. And I was like, it really, really bothered me. Like, I wanted to figure it out. So I would go outside of the organization for specialized knowledge. I'd reach out to people like Jerry Clark or Jeffrey Combs, or just, I could go on for 10 minutes about these people. But I took their courses, I mentored with them, and what it came down to is, it's how you talk to yourself. Like, really. If you wake up in the morning and you say to yourself, oh, what a terrible day, or I'm an idiot, or this is never going to work, your subconscious mind is listening to you. And all of that is influencing not only your conscious mind, but your unconscious mind. And it's literally reinforcing probably your destiny. We talked about this last week when we talked about destiny. The other one is how you communicate with other people. Like, I tell you, I confessed this the last time I did this bonus material. I had a major problem with this. I figured if I was an expert, if I knew what I was doing, and I had leadership skills, you should follow me. Like, you should follow me. And it took me years. I worked for Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I figured out, I don't know when, but I guess it comes with age, that you can have all the knowledge in the world. But if people think you're an idiot, or people don't want to follow you across the street, they will not. You have to influence people. And, we could talk about this forever. How do you do that? Well, it's how you communicate. It's how you communicate with other people to figure out how to move them to a place where they want to go, And we're talking about sales, really. We're talking about influence. But those three things are really, truly important. Having technical knowledge about what you're doing, being really good in your field, whatever it is, but also having a really great self-image and communicating well to yourself and also communicating well to other people. You put these three things together, it will separate you, I think, from 90% of the population who may only focus on one of these things. Like, yeah, I'm really an expert at this. Yeah, sure, you are an expert, but nobody wants to listen to you. Nobody wants to come to your house. Nobody wants to buy anything from you. No one wants to follow you across the street. Why? Because your reputation is that you just don't care. Or your reputation is that you're just selfish. Or your reputation is that you're just using people. Or whatever it is that people think about you. It really comes down to communication. How you communicate with yourself and how you communicate with others. So let me jump into the bottom part of the triangle. And that's what makes this a diamond. So if you're listening to me online or on the radio, I'm drawing two triangles, one facing up and the other one facing down. The one at the bottom represents the unconscious, right? And the one at the top represents the conscious mind. So listening to Jerry and building on the foundation of what Jerry had to say to me 20 years ago, I thought I would add this element, which truly makes this a diamond and not simply a triangle. And it came about when I listened to this gentleman. I'm holding up a book called Notes from a Fellow Traveler by Darren Brown. Now, I don't know if you know who Darren Brown is, but I'm currently reading this book. He's a mentalist, he's a mind reader, he's a performer in the UK. He's probably equivalent to David Copperfield here in the States. Everyone in the UK knows who he is. Some people know who he is, probably in the magic world, performing world in America. But the average, he's not a household name, not a household name. I had tickets to see him in New York, A1, right in the front row. I reached out and touched the stage. I think Darren was probably 5 feet away from me. Standing ovation that night. Wonderful show, filled with very famous magicians, and it was a great day. But the reason I bring up Darren Brown is because he was interviewed a couple years back, and I bought the interview, and they asked him, they said, Darren, what in the world separates you from the masses of entertainers and magicians and mind readers? He says, it's really simple. He says, you have to be an expert, which is the technical knowledge, right? But then he goes on to say this, you have to be good at what you do, but you also have to be able to market it. You have to have a both. So what I thought about to round this out, which is not really rounding it, but just to make it complete, is the two elements that are below are sales, and I know that might scare some people or not, and the other one is marketing. And I think marketing is different from sales. It's not the same. You can make flyers and put them on people's cars, or you can get on Facebook and you can buy an ad, and you can do a podcast and you can send it out to 1,000 people. That's marketing. It's great stuff, right? We have access that we can send a message and go all around the world. That's marketing. Sales is influence. Sales is bringing people through a process so that they can make a decision that's in their best interest. It's ethical influence, right? So sales takes on a whole different aspect. Now, if you don't like the word sales, just realize we're all selling. You know, I have a friend, Peter Mingles, down in Florida. I was talking to him last night, and you know, he always says, if someone's talking and someone's listening, someone's selling and someone's buying. You know, and I must have heard this from him 15, 20 years ago, and he still says it. And when I think of Peter, that's what I think of. So when someone's talking and someone's listening, someone's selling and someone's buying. I don't care what it is. So we have to really figure out what it is we're trying to sell to people. You know, our worldview, where we want to move people to. But all successful people, and Darren Brown is right up there as a successful performer, is that he understands that just having the technical knowledge alone is not enough. You know, you could be an expert at doing what you do. But if you don't get that out there in the world, or you don't let your boss know or your team know what you're doing, you know, when the next promotion comes, it just might go right over you, because they don't know that, you know, you get there early and you stay late and you've done all of these things because you haven't marketed yourself. And that could be even working for somebody. You want to let people know that not only are you really good at what you do, but in addition to that, you're good at marketing yourself. And you're good at selling. Not only the outside clients, right, but also your boss and the people you work with. It all comes down to your intention, and it comes down to focus. Most people are all over the place. So the other day I was reading Anthony Gailey, and Anthony, I'm not going to say we're friends, but he was on my podcast about a year ago, and I saw him a year ago in Massachusetts at a conference. But you know, I would say colleagues, and our paths crossed. And I'm reading his book right now, and he talks about the concept of the bell curve, right? We all know what a bell looks like. It looks like this, right? And what he says is there's no way in the world you can beat the bell curve. There is a lot of people in the middle who are mediocre. You know, they just get by, right? And there's some people over on one end, they do really well. They're really focused. You know, it's the 80-20 rule. They're doing really well. And then you got some people that, you know, I don't even know why they showed up to work, right? And he makes it a point in the book, and I actually heard him say this in Massachusetts last year, is that you can't beat the bell curve. Like if you hired 100 people, or you had 50 people working for you, or had 25 people working for you, The majority of people are just going to put in their time. They're just going to do what they have to just to get by. You're going to have maybe 1 or 2% that do really well, really focused, they're very productive, and then you're going to have some people that are not at all. And I don't know how you change that. And I don't think you actually can change that. But the reason I bring this up is to think about it this way, right? Think about it this way. If you want more, and you want to focus more, and you want to do more, you have no competition. Think about that. Let that sink in just for a moment. You, and I'm talking to you don't have that much competition. You really don't. Because if you draw a bell curve, let me draw it out here. If you draw this thing, most of the people are here. You know, they're just going to work, they're waiting for Monday, or not Monday, they're waiting for Friday, right? Monday is my day off, by the way, where I just relax. But this is the majority. This is where the majority of people are when it comes to focus and productivity. So if you want to be over here, the 1% or the 2%, it doesn't take much to be able to move over there. Because all you have to do is, number one, figure out what's really, truly important in your work or your personal life, right? And in addition to that, you know what to do. You condition your unconscious mind. So let me do this. Let me take a fast commercial, and then when I get back, I'm going to talk about the rest of this. Be back soon.
You've been listening to the Greg Dwyer Radio Show, brought to you by motivational speaker Greg Dwyer on buildingfortunesradio.com. So you can sharpen your focus on what matters most to you and achieve more. If you owe it to yourself to read Greg's ebook at gregdwyerebook.com. That's www.gregdwyerebook.com. Download it today and give it away. As always, we want to thank you for listening to the Greg Dwyer Radio Show on Building Fortunes Radio with motivational speaker Greg Dwyer. Now back to our show. Take it away, Greg.
Okay, in the last, I guess we got about 7 minutes left. This is what I came up with in the last, I guess about the last 6 or 7 months. And it has to do with connecting the two triangles. And so what I have at the top is a triangle facing upward, right? And then below I have a triangle facing downward. And there tends to be a gap. And the gap is this. People already know what they need to do. There's so much information out there. You want to lose weight? There's tons of information out there. You want to work on your marriage, your relationship? There's information out there. You want to work on your finances? There's Susie Orman, there's Dave Ramsey. There's hundreds of people that can tell you what to do and how to do it. We are bombarded with too much information. Knowledge is not the issue. Somebody posted on Facebook the other day, I thought it was really funny. They said, you know, remember the days when we thought that just people were silly and ignorant because they didn't have information? Well, now we know that's not true. There's so much information out there, you can listen to all of it. You can spend all day watching YouTube. You can spend all day on Facebook. You can spend all day downloading all this information. Information is not enough. You have to take action on it, right? You have to figure out what's important. You got to take action on it. So why don't people do it? Well, I think it's because they're afraid. I think because it's new, it's uncomfortable. And so there tends to be a gap, right, between the conscious and the unconscious. We already know that the conscious is already programmed. So it might be going in a different direction. And the conscious mind is easily distracted. That's why I've been throwing these balls over your head, making these little balls, saying, hey, look, we're always being distracted by things all the time. So how do we cure this? Well, I came to the conclusion, and it's not my thoughts, this has been around for years, imagination. People who are able to do this and connect the conscious with the unconscious, they tap into their imagination. Let's call it daydreaming. I prefer self-hypnosis, though I know some people have a hard time with that. But if you've ever been on a highway and you're driving down the road and you get off the exit and you pull into your driveway and you wondered, you know, did you stop at all the lights? Did you make, you know what I mean? Hypnosis on the highway, we're all familiar with that. Or watching Facebook, or sit in front of your television, or just, you know, spacing out, looking out the window like I'm looking out now. We do this all the time. But successful people, they're obsessed, like I am. They know what's important, and that's the first step. And then they connect the conscious and the unconscious by tapping into their imagination, by daydreaming it in full color. They see it, they hear it, they smell it, they taste it. They're just crazy people. They're focused on a thing and they're using their imagination or their daydreaming process every single day to kind of put themselves in a trance. Hey, listen, I know this sounds crazy, but how is this any different than the guy that's punching in and punching out, and every time he can, he looks out, or she, looks out the window and they daydream about the cruise they're going to take in October, or the honeymoon that they're going to come, January of this year. It's no different. It's no different. The only difference is the 1 or the 2% put themselves in a trance state with something that's really, truly important to them. And then they tap into their imagination. They see it, they feel it, they hear it, and they repeat it over and over and over again. And then they take action. First, in their imagination. First, in their dreams. First, in their daydreams. They're taking action. And then when it shows up in real life, it's a done deal. They just do what they've already done already. See, the reason why we don't stay focused is because we're scared to death. Oh my God, this is so new. I don't know. It's outside my comfort zone. What the heck is going to happen? Successful people close the gap with imagination. They've already imaginated it. Is that a word? No, that's not a word. They've already imagined it 1,000,000 times. They say Drew Carey, when he went on the Tonight Show, he gets up, he does his act, and he walks over, and he sits down and has a conversation with Johnny Carson. He says, I imagined it 100,000,000 times before it happened. Right? Now think about that. You imagine something over and over again, every single day, right? You get to the point where you are programming your conscious and your unconscious mind. You're closing the gap. And then when the opportunity presents itself in real life, you just walk into it. Like nothing. Like, I've already done this 1,000,000 times. It's already comfortable for me. I can already do it. It's not a big deal. And that's what it takes to be able to close the gap. So I'm looking at the time. I have 2 minutes. Normally at this point, I open it up for questions. Ask if anybody has any answers or questions. You can email me. If you ever have a question on this topic, you can email me at greg@gregdwyer.com. It's really simple. It's my first name, my last name, greg@gregdwyer.com. So, getting focused, it's not for everybody as far as long term, because let's face it, most people in this world get distracted. The conscious mind is constantly being distracted. There's so much information coming at us that we can't keep track of all of it. People who are successful, they know what's important. They connect the conscious with the unconscious using their imagination. And the process of doing this, they take action first in their imagination and then in reality. And what they're doing is they're cycling this over and over and over again until it becomes automatic. And that's the key. That's the secret. All right, we're looking at the time. I'm looking at the time. It's 90 seconds. So today concludes Diamond Mind. We have 2 videos under each letter. That's an hour's worth of time. That means there's 12 hours of material. So I would encourage you to go back, start with the letter D for diamond, and just go through it again and again and practice. Practice, and that will get you out of the bell curve into the 1 or 2% who not only say they want to get focused, but actually are focused. We'll see you next time. Stay focused. Bye, everybody.